I think they're two separate things you said. How do they start the process and how do they embed it in the adoption? And they're two separate challenges, right? So obviously the cliche out here that all starts at the top and the leader, right? A CEO has to be willing to say, I want to do something new. But if I take the way big ideas start and the way experimentation starts the culture, the way people are doing innovation, it really comes from a couple of champions who are either, like I said, because the CEO, senior leadership is saying we got to go and do this, and or there's a couple of people who are willing to buck, the system and go out and say, I don't mind going out on a limb to try something because possibly because they don't care, possibly because that's their DNA, right? So I don't think it starts any other way in a large enterprise. Simply because, I mean, a large enterprise is your thing. It's a monoculture. I turn up every day, I eschew the risk, I repeat the process, I continue doing it. That repeatability is what gives me success, right? But you need that somebody, you need that champion. The champion could be somebody who just emerges from the woodwork. It could be somebody who's kind of been spotted to do it, or somebody because it comes from the top down who is able to say, let me start this culture of innovation. I feel that when companies start innovation with a view to just saying, hey, I have an innovation agenda and I have to have an innovation agenda, it's bound to fail because then you're paying lip service to it, right? You have to have genuine commitment, which means top leadership has to give resources, commitment, show it, make sure that that thing will succeed and grow. Embedding it in an organization, I think, is a much larger challenge because, there is little way in which, I mean, it's like the body and an infection, right? Your body
Hmm.
is going to fight the infection. Innovation is an infection in a large company. I mean, the antibodies will kick in. Why should we do it? We have done it like this before. No, no, this will not work. Look at all those things that fail, right? All those antibodies kick in to reject innovation. And that's a much harder problem to solve, right? What have I seen some CEOs do successfully? And we've been part of because of the work we do as an AI and all that stuff. In general, it starts off with innovation, and then from there it makes its way into the company. Is that one of the most successful examples I've seen of CEOs is what they call a ship alongside model. You can't
Okay.
change the existing company. You either have a separate unit and you protect and keep that unit, or you set up a separate company or something that you do, which is really what you call I'm shipping something alongside because I can't change it. Here's an example of what we did in Myanmar with one of the big banks out there. And the guy said, largest bank, lots of people, largest, physical branch, cash economy, impossible to change. I'm going to try and launch a new bank, which is a payment bank. I'm going to use the assets of the old bank, the people, the network, and all that. But I'm not going to involve them in this. I'm just going to create something that I will ship alongside. And eventually, once this succeeds, then it is not an infection. Then this is the main thing. Then people will slowly want to come over to this side, right? And whenever you see in banking a digital bank being set up as a separate unit, that's a classic example of what I would call a ship alongside model. Why do people choose ship alongside? It's so obvious. Infection will overcome this when they try it inside. I mean, the innovation is like an infection that will be rejected by the main bank if you try to do it inside that. Um, I have seen things of this fail as well. Is when you don't embed, when you try to make too dramatic a change, and when you don't get the existing organization to understand the reason for the change. And so I do believe that one of the challenges of doing it as a separate thing is that you take it all the way, it proves it out, it's a POC as an innovation, as a whatever. But very late in that, after a lot of people are vested in the success, the body finds a way to reject it, the main body, right? So at some point of time, you have to do that counterbalancing thing of like, it's like a blood transfusion, right? You got to get the body to accept this new thing that's being introduced in that. So I don't think there's any one proven way. I mean, I'm not an organizational expert. I mean, everybody from Harvard to McKinsey have all done a lot more of this work. But I do think that the one change that I've seen in the last 10, 15 years of doing analytics and AI, Swami, is no longer is it acceptable to be in a room and walk in there and just say it's my intuition, my gut feel. You have to bring data to the play. Again, I've interviewed a lot of senior leaders in my podcast, and most of them say this, right? In a meeting, in a discussion, the guy with the data always wins. He says it's often the youngest person in the room.
Yeah.
because the youngest person has no problem using the data because the youngest person cannot come to the meeting and say, I have experience.